Welcome to Engaging India at Almedalen, Dr. Pramod Varma. It's a pleasure to have you here, especially at a time when all of our mind space, the human mind space, is so occupied with artificial intelligence. Now, you built the backbone, the architecture of digital public infrastructure that serves 1.4 billion people today, even before the world was seriously discussing artificial intelligence. When you look at this moment, what feels fundamentally different from back then?
First of all, pleasure to be here and wonderful to be speaking with you. I think that it's not very different from what AI is doing. It's only an upgrade or a improvement of many things that has culminated towards that thing. So, what did digital public infrastructure do really is to create the underlying foundational pieces of the puzzle for a society, like identity, credentialing, or making sure everyone has a bank account, making sure everyone can make money transfer, everyone can do verifiable trust between each other, and so on. So I think the DPI is a necessity for a large society to be able to apply AI on top of that. And I think recently I was speaking at the AI summit, and I made this statement saying all the countries, countries like India, countries like India who have taken the path of implementing DPI will find bringing AI truly a supercharging opportunity. And the countries that have not implemented DPI will find it much harder actually to bring AI at the societal level, because fundamental questions are being asked with AI. Proof of personhood. Are you even a human? How do I trust if it is an agentic transaction, AI agent transacting with me? How do I know my counterparty is an AI agent or a person or a company? I think the foundational constructs of identity, delegations, authorization, verifiability of those will come in handy. And of course, movement of money, things like payment like UPI, is going to make it much easier. Low value, high volume payment infrastructure like UPI makes it even more amenable to actually take it towards an agentic transaction world. So I think, it's serendipity. Frankly, it's serendipity that India perfectly, or India and a few other countries, perfectly set the tone at the societal upgrade using DPI, precisely, well timed to actually take advantage of the AI productivity boom, labor abundance boom, and that is actually, and democratization of tech overall. That boom is overlaid on top of the DPI, which is wonderful.
I'm glad you mentioned this because it lays the ground for my next question. Artificial intelligence is often seen as a tool, but increasingly it looks like it is becoming a part of infrastructure, much like roads and electricity. Do you see AI as a public utility layer, much like digital identity? And if so, then where does ownership really lie?
So, excellent question. It's not that obvious how governance of some parts of this will evolve in the long run, but nevertheless, I think it is, in one sense, incorrect to put AI as infrastructure or AI as applications or AI as this thing or that thing, because AI is a capability, it's not a thing. It's a capability that will go from infrastructure all the way to the applications and everything else that you will see. So it's like saying, can we put a software infrastructure in the world of digitization? Is software infrastructure? Yeah, it can be. Some software can be infrastructure. Some software is simply apps on your phone. Some software is changing the way you are sending email. I mean, it's pervasive and everywhere. AI is that way. AI is not a thing. AI capability, the intelligence as a capability will be infused in at the infrastructure layer, at the transactions layer, at the applications layer, at variety of other places, physical layers like physical logistics and physical transportation and physical warehousing and everything else that you see, you will see AI playing out. So the question itself may not be correct in assuming AI is one thing. I think AI is going to, if you think broadly as AI is a set of capabilities, it will come in everywhere. And this is where what we are seeing. We are looking at AI when you look at AI as a team member, suddenly you will see, oh, AI can do a set of tasks how humans used to do. And then you treat them like human task. But some parts of AI, you're right, like identity of uh, models or any verification thereof, or those questions could be infrastructure. This also answers the second part, that ownership of AI, there's nothing called ownership of AI. AI is a broad capability that's going to be quite like software capability or digitization capability. It's a broad capability that will be infused into everything from physical to digital to infrastructure to applications to everything else that we're going to see. So if that's the case, is there a single ownership? There's no meaning to say who owns AI. Question itself is incorrect in that sense, if you look at it from that perspective. Some parts of the AI will have to be um, owned and operated like an infrastructure because it will have much bigger implication. Some parts will be merely applications. Some parts will be in the physical world like robots or cameras and camera capabilities and so on. So it will depends on where it is.
And that's a very interesting way of framing it, which leads me to my next question. At a time when artificial intelligence can generate voices, perhaps copy us, also have its own identity and make decisions, does digital identity of humans become all the more important in an AI era?
Absolutely, 100% is true. That's why I was saying it's such a serendipity. We did an identity project uh, without an AI context. But because identity is foundational in a societal interaction or a societal transaction, so we obviously had to do it. But with AI, it's even more important question being asked, right? So identity of things, identity of, if there are humanoids and robots, are there identity for them? And is there liability and accountability? So autonomous cars, do they have an identity of their own as they interact and transact with the rest of the surroundings? As a car interacts with the rest of the surroundings, do they have an construct of an identity? Yes, answer is absolutely yes. So, and people are talking about identity of things, identity of AI, identity of AI driven things, and of course identity of people, identity of entities, legal persons. Digital identity is going to be very, very key part of the AI diffusion. There's no question about it. It also comes from the second part of AI diffusion, which is not just identity, it's also delegations and authorization. Both delegations and authorization also have to be identity tied. For example, if I am delegating a shopping task to my AI agent, then my delegations need to be also verifiable. Otherwise, they can go rogue in terms of I don't know who is transacting for on behalf of whom, and do they have an authorization that I can verify, audit, monitor, and so on. So identity, authorization, delegations, both are very, very critical part of the AI diffusion.
I do want to ask you on how this unlocks hyper local enterprise. But before that, I'm curious to know more about Networks for Humanity that you co founded with Nanda Nilekini. Now, for our audience here in Europe who might not be entirely familiar, what are you building and why is it so crucial at this moment?
Okay. Excellent question. Networks for Humanity is our new foundation, a global foundation that we have set up. And we have an office in Switzerland, in the US, in Singapore, and one in India. So we have 4 hubs that we operate out of. And we will continue to have more virtual labs in other parts of the regions like LATAM, Africa, Middle East, and so on. But currently, 4 hubs we have created and we have raised funds. And why did we do that? Is because we were moving beyond the foundational DPI to say now that we are starting to create, and countries are starting to create the foundational layers of DPI, such as identity, bank account, the sort of core money movement aspect of it, early parts of at least money movement in several countries. Real value unlock has not happened because in real world, just having identity or bank account is not enough. I need access to opportunities, access to trade, access to capital, access to investments, access to both as provider, both as consumers, and also as a provider. You might be able to offer as if you're a bank, or if you're a lending organization, or if you're an employer. How do you say I can offer employment, right? So I think we are starting to now look at what beyond the foundational enablers to allow transactability between parties. So if finally the world doesn't wake up to say I need an identity. Today world wakes up to say I want a job, I'm looking for a job, I want loan, I want I want to be able to sell this or buy this and so on, right? The people are doing transactions. Transactions need identity and transactions need bank account and money. But the real value is when the transactions are unlocked. But what happens today is that much of the two key parts of the internet's original dream has not yet fully unraveled. The first part is how does all the economic assets, how do economic assets become digitally representable, digitally verifiable, and digitally transactable? For example, if I have gold, if I have property, if I have cattle, or if I have a solar roof, they're all physical assets and physical economic assets I have. But today to transact against them, if I want to lend against your solar roof, it's very, very painful process. It's high cost, low trust process that is going on. Banks have to come, verify, paperwork, lots of paperwork, and the cost thereof is very high. The problem with the high cost, low trust environment is that the bulk of the society gets left out because they want to transact micro transactions, and for most institutions the cost is much more than the value I can generate out of the transaction. For example, if I'm a bank and if somebody is asking me for $1,000 loan, very high chance bank would say I can't do it because the cost of lending that small amount to you, 50,000 rupees, 100,000 rupees, 1 lakh rupees in the case of India, is cost itself is much more than the interest I can earn. So what is important for us is to create a new world where it becomes low cost, high trust, and hence high velocity transactions possibility. And this is even more important when AI is infused into the whole thing, because AI driven transactability will be 1,000-fold more high frequency than humans can do, because agents can do a lot more work behind the scene. So it's very, very critical that we must create an environment, what we call internet of value, not internet of content as we see today, internet of value, where people can own a digital version of all forms of economic assets and discover buyers, seller, producer, consumers across that network, trust and transact in a high trust, low cost manner. This will allow the rest of 5-6 billion people to and 350 million small businesses in the world to be able to actually in the transaction economy and not a paper-based parallel economy that we see today. Cash-based, paper-based, high cost, low trust, fragmented environment. Most people are. Only the top of this pyramid is in a good state. We need to expand transactability, tradability, and ability to do economic transactions to everyone. And that requires a new form, new internet itself to be reimagined of how value can be tokenized, transacted, represented, and how value can be exchanged with a low cost, high trust manner. Networks of Humanity is precisely building such fabric. We are building a fabric with open protocols and open fabric that allows both value representation and tokenization and value exchange in a high cost, low trust agentic world for the agentic world. And it's a 10-year journey for us, and we have begun exceptionally well. In fact, much bigger traction than we thought. We are actually having several pilots around the world, including in Europe, and we look forward to many of you, many of the parties there to be able to support, join the movement that allows us to reimagine a better economic world than what we have today.
Well, I'm sure the audience is all ears since you've just extended an invitation to everyone here. So thank you for that. I'm curious to know how what you are building unlocks more value for small businesses and hyper local enterprises. So take us through that.
So there are two portions of it. One, to build the underlying infrastructure itself as a public good, universal public good. How internet was built, right? And literally, open protocols, open standards. It's there as a public good for everyone to use it. So that is one layer of what the foundation would focus on. But for that, building infrastructure alone is no guarantee of success. We need to be playground making also creates initial players to be created. So we are working with entrepreneurs and we are working with market actors, both whether it's on the government, or philanthropic side of the solutions, but also market side of the solutions. We believe a lot of entrepreneurs will be born. How internet bred hundreds and thousands of new entrepreneurs on top of it. How smartphone created further, and how Web3 created more entrepreneurs, how AI is creating more entrepreneurs in the system. We hope to create a lot more entrepreneurial energy solutions, actual companies building on top of this infrastructure to offer specific solutions in the financial sector, travel, mobility sector, livelihood sector, agriculture sector, healthcare, education, and so on. So these sectoral solutions and products will come from market. And while we might induce few products of our own to show how you can build these products, thousands and thousands of products will be built on such fabric. This is what our imagination is. And that's exactly the invitation for entrepreneurs to be able to actually build on top of it to create next generation peer-to-peer agentic economy around any sector of that interests you, whether it's in energy sector, agriculture sector, livelihood sector, travel, any sector of that matter.
So, as I understand, what you're talking about is exponential growth. That's also a conversation that I have heard in boardrooms and meetings here. Now, if an entrepreneur in Sweden or in Europe wants to build something that really matters at scale, something like what you had done for a digital identity, what would be that one piece of advice that perhaps no one's telling them?
I'm not sure if I can say anything completely new, but the one thing is very, very clear to us. I think AI is going to unbundle the current value chains faster than we can imagine. Today, large companies exist, large value chains exist in a particular manner, mostly driven by a lot of intermediaries and large companies in middle. But I think it will get unbundled very, very fast with AI diffusing to the edges. The technology and AI will get diffused even faster to the edges, allowing a new form of network economy to form itself. And that will require a new set of entrepreneurs to be able to build. So I can't tell you exactly which sector and what product you can build, but I think opportunity is just beginning. And and we see this in entrepreneurial energy, if you are in startups in India, if you come to Bangalore or India or in the Valley in the US, you will see this extreme optimism and the mentality of abundance mind view, not a scarcity mind view, an abundance view, saying that we can make the world better. We can make really through an entrepreneurial effort. So if you're an entrepreneur, you solve real hard problems by bringing the new developments to your advantage. Take that advantage and actually build to solve something big. And this is, we are only beginning, and we are absolutely beginning. If you're an young entrepreneur there, you should be waking up with like as if you had 1,000 coffee and saying, wow, this is what a brilliant opportunity for entrepreneurs and for the world. Someone is going to do it. It's you or not, depends on how much enthusiasm you're waking up with and how much positive energy that you're waking up with. But we need European entrepreneurs, we need entrepreneurs in Sweden, all of you to not give up to and outsource this idea of building a new world to someone else. You have to do it yourself. And I encourage you to actually do this. It's a beautiful place to be in. This is it. If you're young person in this time, what a time to be in. Both negative, but a lot of negatives happening, but don't let it drown you. There's ton of positive things happening, and you leverage the positive energy to do a better thing.
Well, that's really inspiring, Pramod, because it comes at the back of the free trade agreement between EU and India. So it opens up immense possibilities, doesn't it, between enterprise, interactivity, and engagement coming from all directions, something which we have just about begun to understand or imagine. For example, Engaging India at Almedalen takes place here on the island of Gotland. Now, will it be too far fetched to say that there will be engagement, interactivity, enterprise between Gotland and perhaps Ghatkopar? Can I say that on the back of what you've just said?
Exactly, that's the exact statement you should be making it. Today, the assumptions of tradability. By the way, 5 centuries ago, everyone was trading with everyone else, right? Without any, if you can go across the ship and take a product, and if there's demand, you trade anything, literally, right? I think what has happened is that we have made the trade very complex, very high cost, high regulation, and intermediate driven, which makes it very hard for people to trade. But these trade routes that now we have, India EU, for example, or EU opening of the trade, should allow the next generation of technological entrepreneurs to say, how can we dramatically collapse the cost of trade, cost of discovery, cost of contracting, cost of trust in the system, and make it, if you have something to product and if there's demand, you should be able to trade it. Doesn't matter how small you are or how big you are. So I think your tradability through technology, can you bring ability to trade at a high trust, low cost manner to everyone? That's a real question you should be asking. I believe it's totally possible with tokenization, AI, and all the ideas that we are starting to implement. In fact, we are cross-border trade is one of the big verticals that we work on. So of course, it's exactly the imagination that power to do business and agency to do business will be diffused to the edges finally, and where everyone can actually do, even if you're a mom and pop shop.
But are regulations really keeping pace in this network economy, or do we need a regulatory and governance rethink?
Excellent question. Now, by design, it's not a bug, it's a feature of the system that they come slow, okay? Because, look at the current geopolitical structures, sovereignty questions, and also they are economists and policymakers. They don't fully understand tech and the implications of tech. So there is a regulatory engagement, a policymaker engagement necessary for us to be able to allow that future to unravel. Tech alone won't unravel. Policy upgrades are necessary. In fact, one of the things Networks of Humanity has done is to co-fund a regulatory and policy lab in Cambridge University in UK called CDIR, cdir.global, which is basically a center for digital innovation and regulation. Because we realize this is a reality that we need to work with them, policymakers and regulators, to take away the fears, lack of understanding, and allow them to calibrate and infuse this technology into their world rather than forcing them to come to tech. Tech should go to them, right? So I think it is that conversation is necessary, but the way it will happen is through it's not a sequential process. Entrepreneurs will try to do something, show something really interesting working at small scale, and then you policy guys will say, oh, is it okay, not okay? Then you work with them to actually allow to scale that idea, and then you go back and then scale the idea. But don't wait for policymakers to make the first move. Entrepreneurs make the first move. Absolutely.
At this point, I'm going to digress a little since we've been talking about exponential scale. Now, I have heard you in the past in Bangalore during your talks talk about design for scale or build for scale, which is different from design and scale or build and scale. Now, for our audience here in Sweden and rest of Europe, could you elaborate on that? What is the fundamental difference?
Yeah, so I mean, the statement we normally make is what works at scale is very different from scaling what works. Now, this is very interesting way to think about it, because if your target audience is the world, if you're an entrepreneur and you're launching a worldwide product, if you cannot say, oh, first I'll build it for one island and then I'll make it for a tinier country, and somehow I'll take it to Indonesia and suddenly somewhere else in Africa and so on. It doesn't work that way. You have to think what works at scale from day one, and then abstract those complexities of scale, contextualization. For example, what works in one part of the world won't work in another part of the world. What works in one village doesn't work in another village, for India, for example. But how do you differentiate between context invariant ideas versus context sensitive ideas? How do you layer them, unbundle and layer them? This cannot be an afterthought. You don't build a product and say, now somehow I want to patch this product to completely another context. This has to be thought through. So if your ambition need not be world. Your ambition can be small, nothing wrong in it. But if your ambition is to implement a product at scale, then you have to think what will happen at scale. What will happen if I have 100 million users? What if I have 10 geographical places I am going live? What does it mean to me? What does it mean to this layering of context, highly context sensitive aspects of the product versus context invariant aspects of the product at the bottom? How do I layer them? How do I construct them? How do I assemble them like a Lego block? These have to be thought through very well. And so it depends on what your project is. And for a lot of us, projects have been all billion people plus scale. So obviously this had to be thought through from day one and layer it correctly so that contextualization works on the exactly same infrastructure that is context invariant. So it's very interesting way to think about it.
And now moving on to large language models, there has been a lot of debate on LLMs. Should countries build their own LLMs? And in India, there's also conversation on building smaller language models. What's your take on that? What's your view?
There are two parts to AI, if you really look at it. One is this imagination of a mega brain for the world. The large reasoning brain. Today, OpenAI, Claude, Anthropic, or Google, all is imagining that world where there is a mega super engine for the world that has reasoning capabilities, that has knowledge, that has computing capabilities, that has all kinds of interesting capabilities that is built in that will be used by the world. Now, from that angle, that does create sovereignty questions. That does create contextualization questions, cultural biases, questions, and so on, when you have only two of such brain in the world, and a whole world has to depend on one or two of these companies. So, if you ask me, I'm not sure you should ask the question countries should build. I'm not even sure what countries building means. Government can't build. I mean, very little governments can do. But companies should build. So if an Indian company wants to, and I know there are few Indian companies, not at the level of OpenAI, but a smaller level. They're all trying to build a reasoning engine and LLMs and you know multimodal engines, the new world models that we are talking about beyond the language model itself. Everybody is attempting. So, should answer to the first question: should other countries and or other companies in other countries should build similar reasoning and world models? Answer is yes, sure. Why not? Give competition to that's why if you look at the DeepSeek effect, it's not whether China opened up DeepSeek. DeepSeek showed the world that, oh, you know what, this is doable at a lower cost and at a cheaper price. You can do it. It's not so bad. It gave that, it sort of broke the aura of that big thing that only two companies can do. So the other companies should definitely continue to build, because it is only the nascent stage of AI, nascent stage of the new AI. Of course, the research has been there for 50, 70, 80 years. But the new AI, as we know, is only nascent. It's going to play out. Second point, that is only one portion of the AI. The second portion of the AI is what we call SLMs, or edge reasoning models, edge AI, which will also play out a lot, where extremely fine-tuned smaller models, whether it's language models or vision models or whatever the other models, which are diffused and executed on the edges. Will they come from the same company? They will also attempt, because these are large companies, they will attempt to do so. But there's tremendous opportunities for entrepreneurs, where in the manufacturing sector, in the drone sector, in the agriculture sector, in the retail sector, you have going to have lots of tinier, fine-tuned, edge, high-performance models that are deployed on the edge, which is we have not even begun that world yet, okay, fully. There's tremendous opportunity for entrepreneurs to build them. That needs domain knowledge. For example, if you're doing manufacturing, assembly lane, quality check of a manufacturing product, you need to have domain knowledge, domain access, and extremely fine-tuned edge models at high velocity assembly lane. You are able to deploy that thing. Nothing to do with this mega model. Okay. So it is interesting that there are second opportunity in the AI world beyond this mega LLM world model story, that there are going to be thousands of edge models and edge applications which are AI induced applications that are going to come in. That is wide open for entrepreneurs to play the game. So answer is yes to first one. Other countries and other companies should build it, because I think the commoditization of AI will continue to play out and keep playing. There will be open source models, there will be newer models. Just attempt to compete. Nothing wrong in it. And the second one is the whole new world of edge models, SLM, smaller models, fine-tuned, special purpose models, sectoral specific models. That's a fully new open business for you. So play both.
Right. And my final question to you: we've been talking about artificial intelligence, the world's talking about a new world, AI world, artificial general intelligence. There's just so many buzzwords and so much of conversation. But what's that one serious conversation perhaps that we are not having enough of?
I'm not sure it's one question. I think we are having too many serious conversations, but I'm not, and we are all over the place, because AI is just tech. If the tech is embedded in an autonomous car and that kills somebody, these questions will come no different from any other industrial definition. Whoever operating the car, has to take liability, accountability for it. It's not about AI's job. It's whoever company or a person who is deploying it will continue to have obligations, accountability. So there is one angle of AI conversation that's about obligations, accountability of AI being diffused in the society through varieties of things like autonomous cars, robots, humanoids, whatever you're diffusing to. You have responsibility and obligations to society to do the right way, and you will continue to have those conversations. And the second conversation is the abundance conversations, which is a positive side of it. So entrepreneurs should get excited about. Is then AI is the democratization of that reasoning, and AI is creating enormous abundance in the way and the speed at which research will be unraveled, biological research, pharmaceutical research, and new age material science research, new products. That abundance that is going to create is going to collapse the cost and enable the world to shift from an internet information era to an intelligence era. And there you can do a lot good for the humanity by bringing that abundance to everyone. And that's what entrepreneurs should look at. So that's a separate conversation. It's an entrepreneurial conversation. The first one is a obligation conversation, policy conversation. Okay, both should happen at the same time.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Pramod Varma, for joining us today and sharing your vision, your insights, and how you see new possibilities as we all step into this world of human intelligence coexisting with artificial intelligence. I'm going to be taking a lot with me from this conversation, and I'm sure the audience is too. So, thank you once again for your time and for being with us at
Thank you.
Engaging India at Almedalen.
Thank you so much, and all the best to everyone. Thank you.